Hi everyone, Virtual Ninja here, bringing you guys a brand new list. Today we're going to be going over the top 5 competitive budget decks for the February 2018 format. We're going to be going over some inexpensive decks that really haven't received the level of discussion that they deserve from the Yu-Gi-Oh community. That way you can maintain a competitive edge without having to spend your life savings on a bunch of cardboard. So let's stop wasting time with introductions and get right into the list. At number 5, Kosmos. Now, I don't really know what happened with this, but it seems like people just forgot that this deck straight up exists. Kosmos is a Star Wars themed archetype focused around two types of Cosmo monsters. Your pilots, which are your low level monsters which are all able to banish themselves from the field to special summon a higher level Cosmo from the hand, and your ships. Now, the ships are your big beatsticks who can be untargetable sometimes and can really annoy your opponent, especially when they can banish themselves when destroyed to special summon a lower level Cosmo straight from your deck. Now, the deck is a huge trap for newbie players, as they will typically make huge misplays against your cards, such as trying to target and destroy your pilot without remembering that you can chain its banish effect to special summon a Cosmo. It also has very little reliance on the extra deck overall, if any, which means that you don't really have to worry about cards like Dimensional Barrier or Artifact Scythe screwing your gameplay and game plan over. It also means that you have a lot of space for cherries targets, which can be really helpful in the current metagame. Now, the only expensive Cosmo cards are Tin Can, which is about $7 each, and Cosmojo, which is about $11. Other than that, most of the cards are $1 or less. So if you're really on a tight budget, you can just stick to one Cosmojo or maybe none at all. Now, the best part about Cosmos in terms of playing it is that there are a lot of variants to fit your style, such as Demise Cosmo, Fire King Cosmo if you love learning crazy combos and just going aggro on your opponent and committing to your board, or Pure Cosmo if you kind of want to balance between power and kind of stun / control. So overall, Cosmos is a really fun deck that's fairly cheap and is capable of creating some really annoying and powerful boards that will just overwhelm your opponent. They really won't know what to do. At number 4, Infernoids. Infernus is a powerful budget deck that relies heavily off of setting up your graveyard in order to place really strong monsters onto your board. Now, some of the Infernoid monsters have effects that are just crazy, such as Infernoid Deviati being able to wipe all spells and traps on the field when summoned, Heavy Storm, and tribute a monster to negate another monster's effects during either player's turn. Now, while these effects can be insane, a big caveat for summoning these Infernoid monsters is that in order to special summon them, the total levels and ranks of all effect monsters you control must be at a total of 8 or less. However though, since Link monsters don't have levels, you can have a really easy way to clear your field of effect monsters in order to make way for your Deviati or Ununku. Now, if you enjoy playing 60 card decks back when Grass was at 3, Grass Infernoid is still a really strong option, with Fairy Tale Snow at 3 in order to really annoy your opponent. Now, the reason why the pure Infernoid variant is really cheap is because of Deviati's recent reprint in Battles of Legend Light's Revenge. So most of the cards will only be a few dollars, which is really nice for your wallet. Now, Infernoids doesn't rely entirely on the extra deck, although sometimes they do go into their own fusion monster, which means you do have space for cherries targets if you don't spend all of your time trying to come up with these situational cards that you're never really going to summon with Infernoids. So, overall, Infernoids is a deck that really is not easy or well suited for newer players of the game, but will reward high skill play with some beefy beatsticks. Thick beatsticks, with powerful stun effects to make your opponent unable to make a comeback in any means whatsoever. At number 3, Paleozoic Frogs. Now, if you've been paying attention to the metagame since late 2016, you're probably familiar with what this deck is. In short, Paleozoic Frogs is a trap-centric deck based around making a ton of rank 2s, primarily totally awesome, which will make your opponent totally want to quit Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, Konami, the name wasn't funny, okay? But there is a reason why this deck was meta at one point, and it's just because of how powerful Totally Awesome's effect is, being able to essentially keep negating your opponent's cards and set them to your side of the field so that you can use them later on. Now, the deck relies on disruptive plays through your Paleozoic cards alongside your Totally Awesome negates. Both work hand in hand in order to make sure that your opponent really won't be able to do much on their turn. Now, as you gradually play more and more trap cards, you can special summon more and more of your Paleozoic cards from the grave onto the field in order to open up your extra deck. Plus, Miss Starboy, the Water Link monster, provides a very simple yet viable link monster for the deck, allowing you to have multiple Totally Awesomes live on the field in order to really annoy your opponent. Now, the main issue facing this deck right now is obviously the massive amount of back row hate, from Denko Sekka to Evenly Matched to, oh god, why do they call it this? Hey, True Nade! Almost as bad as Totally Awesome. But other than those potential side deck options you'll have to face, Paleo Frogs is a really well-rounded deck in terms of both consistency and power output. Almost all of the Paleozoic cards are basically pennies, and the frog engine for the deck is also pretty cheap. Totally Awesome himself is about $4 at the time of making this video too, so really the deck is pretty affordable for any budget player. Overall, Paleo Frogs is a deck that I think many budget players will and should flock to after this ban list, as it has proven itself in past metagames and is something that many people will forget to side for right now. At number 2, Counter Fairies. Yep, that's right, I said it. Counter Fairies. Counter Fairies have really gone under the radar since its release, however, it's really fun and really underrated. Counter Fairies relies on utilizing counter traps, hence the counter part of the name, to negate all of your opponent's cards and effects while letting you plus each time you use counter traps. Now, obviously the best part about this is that unless your opponent is playing 39 Dark Vibe in their 40 card deck, they really won't be able to answer most of your counter traps. Now, the reason why Counter Fairies got a lot of hype recently is that in January, there was new support released from the Wave of Light structure deck in the TCG. Most particularly Rebirth of Parshath, a new counter trap that allows you to negate a spell, trap, or monster effect, and special summon a Parshath monster from your deck or extra deck in order to maintain board presence and pressure. This, alongside new monster support and new spells in order to protect your back row, made the deck get a lot of hype. However, it's kind of died off really quickly. I think a lot of people forgot that in this new ban list, Solemn Judgment is back at 1, which makes this deck get even better since Guiding Ariadne, one of your main fairy monsters, will let you avoid that hefty half your life point cost. Now, obviously the main struggle with this deck is that it relies on going first, but the reason why I put it on this list is that in the last format, near the end, we started to see a shift in Yu-Gi-Oh! Player perspectives. Now, this is mainly talking about spirals, but we saw a lot of decks start to try and design themselves towards going second. That way they can utilize hand traps better, and they can make sure that their opponent can't set up before they try and set up. However, Counter Fairies is more than fine facing a deck that wants to go second. Counter Fairies wants to go first, and if they're just going to let you set your back row so you can pass and just negate everything with your Solemns, sure, that's fine. So as more and more decks start to prefer going second, Counter Fairies will definitely gain more relevance. Now, the deck is fairly cheap, probably costing you less than $50 if you build smart and not splurge on max rarity cards. You basically need 3 of the actual structure deck Wave of Light and a couple counter traps here and there. Now, if you really want to go all out, you can pick up a playset of Demise, but remember that Demise is being reprinted in the Legendary Collection Kaiba soon, so you probably want to wait until the price settles afterwards. So, while the deck has yet to see any strong competitive showings at an event, it is definitely a fun deck for the budget player who is looking to mess with friends and play a deck focused on burning your opponent's resources rather than your own. Now, before we get to our number 1 best competitive budget deck for February 2018, I want to remind you guys that if you guys are enjoying the video, you should like the video, subscribe, share it with your friends, and most importantly, hit that notification bell. Now, the best budget deck, in my opinion, for competitive players in February 2018 is Dinos. Pure Dinos is a fast-paced, aggressive deck, typically focused on turboing out Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, the boss monster of the deck who can flip your opponent's monsters face down for some spicy non-targeting removal and burn when he battles them. The deck relies heavily on having its cards being destroyed in order to have effects occur. For example, Baby Ceratosaurus can have itself special summon Playmaker monsters from the deck when it's destroyed. That way you can eventually turbo out Ultimate Conductor Tyranno alongside powerful Xyz monsters such as Evilzar, Logia, and Dolka. Speaking of Xyzes, the deck is able to access the versatile rank 4 toolbox and capitalize off of generic cards such as Abyss Dweller and the Utopia package. Now, the best part about Dinos is that it is fine going first and going second, meaning that you don't have to worry about the die roll as much as the potential meta decks for the February format post-ban list. Plus, support cards such as Double Evolution Pill and Giant Rex makes it way easier to access both Ultimate Conductor Tyranno and your rank 4 toolbox. Now the deck can be expensive if you play the True Dracos variant, I'll give you that. But if you just want to play pure Dinos and stick to a budget, you can literally just buy 3 Dino Smashers Fury structure decks and go. If you ever want to upgrade it too, you can. Like I said, you can add Dragonic Diagram and the True Draco stuff in order to play a True Draco Dinos version and trigger your effects easier, or you can add something like Jirac-Aolo and the huge toolbox of Synchros to add more power to the deck for certain situations. So overall, Dinos has become a modern fan favorite for its easy to learn, hard to master style, and its viability in the metagame as a rogue contender have really made it popular. This, alongside its extremely small price tag thanks to the Dino Smashers Fury structure deck, puts it on the #1 spot in my list. So hopefully this video will have given you guys a couple ideas as to how you can still play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And keep up with the metagame post-ban list without having to break the bank. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to share the video with your friends, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can be there to support this type of high quality Yu-Gi-Oh! Content whenever it drops. Now if you really want to go above and beyond in supporting the channel, you can support me monetarily by becoming a member on my Patreon, where you can receive cool perks starting at only $1 a month. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.